Good evening. Thanks for joining us tonight. The area of last night's deadly pedestrian crash in Green Bay had been on police radar already before the incident.
City officials telling us pedestrian safety near Mason and Bellevue streets needs to be addressed. Police say 82-year-old Judith Sisler of Luxembourg was killed in the 700 block of Bellevue Street just after 6 p.m. last night. An 83-year-old man from Luxembourg was also hurt. Authorities have not released his name. Officers say the driver of the vehicle stayed at the scene and is cooperating with investigators.
Emily Riley's been looking into the issue of safety in that area near Mason and Bellevue Streets. She joins us now live with what she's learned. Emily.
Bill and Cammie, Green Bay police had already identified East Mason near Bellevue as an area of priority enforcement. They used a tool from the DOT that used previous crash data to predict this area as one of the highest areas of crash likelihoods in the next 30 days. Alderman Bill Galvin, who represents the district this area is in, says he's been pushing for the installation of rectangular rapid flashing beacons at the intersection, also known as RRFBs. Galvin says they ran into issues when bidding for contractors, and the price came back higher than expected. The owner of a nearby restaurant says crossing this street can be dangerous, and last night's incident is incredibly upsetting. She wants to see more safety measures.
There's not a crosswalk. I don't even know how far that way, and not until the corner up on Mason there, so people are always cutting across. And there's businesses on both sides, and people go back and forth from both sides.
The Green Bay City Council is currently in the second round of bidding for funding measures for these RRFBs. Galvin says they'll know more about the timeline of installation when they get that second round back. Reporting in Green Bay, Emily Riley, Action 2 News.